Have you ever heard of a man so wicked that God didn't wait for Judgment Day? No warning, no trial, no second chance, just death. One sentence in the Bible, a name erased, a soul removed by divine decree. His name was Er, and his story might be the most terrifying lesson in the entire Bible. But what if I told you his death was only the beginning? Because behind that one line of scripture is a domino effect that shapes the bloodline of kings and leads straight to Jesus Christ. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and buckle up. This is the kind of story that flips everything you thought you knew about God, grace, and the cost of wasted potential. Let's uncover why Er, the firstborn of Judah, was the first man in Scripture to be directly killed by God, and why. Er wasn't just anybody. He was Judah's firstborn. Now remember, Judah isn't some side character. This is the man whose name defines an entire tribe, the same line that gave us King David, and eventually Jesus himself. So Er, he was supposed to be the beginning of greatness, but something went terribly wrong. Born to Judah and the daughter of a Canaanite man, was raised between two worlds, Hebrew legacy and Canaanite compromise. Abraham had warned Isaac never to take a Canaanite wife, but Judah did anyway, and was the result. A child of mixed values, a soul born into privilege, but blind to purpose. The name in Hebrew means watchful, but the irony, he watched nothing. He let everything that mattered slip through his hands, including his soul. Judah found a wife for Her name was Tamar, a woman whose righteousness would soon outshine every man in the house. This wasn't just a marriage, it was a divine assignment. Tamar was meant to continue the lineage that would carry the messianic promise forward. But wanted none of it. Genesis 38:7 says it plain and chilling. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. No explanation, no details, just a divine gavel slammed shut, is gone, erased. What could someone do to provoke that kind of reaction from God? The Bible doesn't say, but Jewish tradition has a theory. Refused to give Tamar a child. Why? Because he didn't want to ruin her beauty, or maybe he didn't want competition for his inheritance. Whatever the reason, it was selfishness. Pure, cold, spiritual sabotage. Others suggest he dabbled in Canaanite idol worship. Some say he was violent. We don't know for sure. But we know this. God saw his heart and said enough. This wasn't about surface-level sin. This was a man who deliberately stood in the way of God's plan, and God removed him like a pawn off a divine chessboard. When died, something had to be done. His lineage couldn't just vanish. It was too important. Enter Onan, Er's brother. He was tasked with fathering a child with Tamar in Er's name, a practice called levirate marriage, long before it was written into law. Onan agreed, at least on paper, but when it came time to act, he made sure Tamar never got pregnant. Why? Because if Tamar had a son, that son would inherit Er's legacy, not his. So Onan used her and denied her destiny. And what does the Bible say? What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. Boom, second son gone. The line of Judah was collapsing. One son dead, another judged. Only one left, Shelah the youngest. And Judah? He panicked. Instead of giving Shelah to Tamar like he promised, he sent her away with a lie. Wait until he grows up. But years passed. Shelah became a man. Judah broke his word. Tamar had been faithful. The men had not. What happened next is one of the boldest moves in Scripture. Tamar disguised herself as a prostitute and positioned herself where Judah would pass by. He didn't recognize her. He slept with her. And she asked for one thing as a guarantee: his seal, his cord, his staff, his identity, his authority. Weeks later, Judah hears Tamar is pregnant. He explodes. Burn her alive. But then, Tamar sends the items. I am pregnant by the man who owns these. Please recognize them. Then the unthinkable happens. Judah says, she is more righteous than I. Right there, honor is restored, truth wins, and Tamar, cast aside and forgotten, becomes the mother of the messianic line. Tamar gives birth to twins. The first stretches out his hand, marked with a red cord. But it's the second who breaks through first. They name him Perez, meaning breakthrough. And that breakthrough became the great-grandfather of David. The bloodline of Jesus didn't come through It didn't come through Onan. It came through a woman who refused to let the promise die, and a God who writes glory into scandal. So what's the lesson of That privilege without purpose is dangerous, that you can be first in line and still be cut off. But also this, when men fail, God still fulfills. You may feel like a footnote in someone else's story, but in God's hands, even the forgotten can shape eternity. So stay watchful, stay faithful, and never underestimate what God can do through someone who simply refuses to let the promise die. If this story moved you, drop a comment below. What stood out most? And if you want more stories like this, raw, real, and spiritually rich, subscribe and join our journey.